to the Balance of Cinema podcast, a show dedicated to discussing movies from the cinematic failures to lesser-known classics hiding on Tubi to movies that are definitely not Star Wars ripoffs. I am Steven, and joining me today is Ree, the Urban Nymph.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. Ree is known for her audio channel, which is Ree's Audio Adventures, or Urban Nymph, as I know her by. She's one of my favorite roleplay channels back in the day when I used to listen to these all the time. But she also has a channel called Ree's Rambles, where she gets to post video essays about movies that she enjoyed when she was younger. I have to say, I really loved your last Starfighter video.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
That has been one of those like 80s movies that has always like eluded me. I've just never had the chance to watch it, and even though I like the video, I still haven't seen it.
You should. You should watch it. It's so worth it.
It's definitely a movie that was made where like people were like, "Oh, hey, this like sci-fi stuff is actually popular. We should capitalize on it." Kind of like the movie we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah, yeah.
So, I know you are a pretty big sci-fi fan. What got you into sci-fi?
I don't think there was any one thing that did. I just remember always liking sci-fi. I watched Star Trek: The Next Generation with my dad. I got into Stargate. I, of course, watched Star Wars. I think the copies of Star Wars episodes 4, 5, and 6 we had on our VHS shelf at home when I was a kid. Those had been taped off of HBO, so they were the original ones. They weren't the ones that Lucas went back and mucked with. So to me, that is like core Star Wars. But yeah, it's just always appealed to me that the world building being based sort of loosely on actual science, some more than others, of course, but there's an escapism to it, of course, that is very appealing, but also having that slight grounding in reality is just enough to make you think, this could happen, or this could be the future. Let's be optimistic for a minute. Let's be hope core for a minute, and maybe things will actually go our way for a change. So, yeah.
Yeah, well said. That's one of my favorite aspects of sci-fi too. It's to kind of it's a way to like either warn people or kind of get people thinking again. A type of storytelling where you can also have fun with it too.
Right, exactly. Like you can invent your own techno babble if you really need to connect the dots between point A and point Z, but still get that core message, that core theme across that you're trying to convey. So yeah, that's nice.
You mentioned Stargate in particular. I am a pretty big Stargate fan. It was actually more of a recent thing that I got into. Like during COVID, I started to watch a lot of
Ah,
Stargate, and I was like, "This show's awesome."
yeah. I really like Stargate. What I like about Stargate is that it's set in, current times with humans who are using technology that they're not prepared for. So, that sort of melding of this futuristic technology and a current sort of zeitgeist, I think really works because it's easier to insert yourself into that story for one thing. Whereas like Star Trek, it's great, but it's so far in the future and the vibe is so different that like in Next Generation, you only have like one character that uses colloquialisms, everybody else speaks very formally, which they've corrected some of that in Strange New Worlds, but still, Stargate has that very, very current grounding of what if a bunch of dumb humans got a hold of something that's way above their pay grade and, got into stuff that they probably shouldn't have. And like that to me is a really fun sort of melding of the two concepts. So yeah, I like that.
Yeah, especially like when you have like Jackson or Carter like kind of like explaining like this like sciencey or like historical type of thing, and then you just have O'Neill just basically being like, "Yeah, can we just blow it up?"
Yeah, he's definitely the audience insert in that show. And a fun fact about that show is when they were filming it, they had to be careful with the set design because if there was any loose items smaller than about a bread box within reach, he would pick it up and start playing with it
Oh,
during the shooting. So if you watch the show back, you'll see there's so many scenes where he picks up a cup or he picks up a pen and he starts playing around with it. They had to be careful to stop doing that because they knew he was going to do it every time. So like that to me is kind of fun that he's just like playing with the set while they're filming and it's like, well, can't stop him from doing that. So clear the set, I guess.
I actually didn't know that. That's a funny bit of trivia. So we are not really talking about a movie that like it's not this movie's not the type of sci-fi that kind of like, makes you think. This is more of just a kind of like a fun type of
Yeah.
movie.
It's a
Um,
popcorn movie, yeah.
yeah. And that movie is, of course, Battle Beyond the Stars, the 1980 sci-fi classic from Roger Corman. Which, are you familiar with Roger Corman?
Yes, peripherally. I don't watch a lot of his stuff, but I know, the pope of pop and the cult classic thing that kind of floats around him. He seemed, I'm sorry, he did pass a couple of years ago, I believe, but seemed to very much revel in that framing of his work, I suppose. So yeah.
Yeah, he's almost like I would almost call him like the patron saint of like independent and cult filmmaking.
Yeah.
Because even if you're not like really familiar with like his work, you're definitely going to be familiar with people that he has that have worked with him and kind of have gone on. There's a very big person that worked on this movie that we'll get to in a moment, but for some examples, like people that have worked for him, like actors like Jack Nicholson got to start with him, William Shatner, Peter Fonda, and then you have directors like Ron Howard, Joe Dante, Martin Scorsese have like all worked with him at some point, and then of course they went on to have huge careers.
Mhm.
He did not direct this one though; he just produced it. The director though is Jimmy. Hopefully, I'm going to get this right. The director is Jimmy T. Murakami,
Mhm.
who's primarily an animation director, but he has directed, specifically, he's directed other live action stuff for Corman. Um, I know a famous Corman horror film is or I don't know if it's a horror, but the Humanoids from the Deep, which he worked on I think he worked on the stop motion for that one. Um, and then the writer is John Salis, who I'm not familiar with him, but I've kind of heard his name before, and he's a pretty big player in the independent scene. And he was two of the films that he directed and wrote were nominated for original screenplay Oscars. So
Oh, wow.
it's kind of funny. This is one of his first films that he's made.
Yeah.
Here's kind of like a big person that worked on this movie, though. So Corman hired this Canadian filmmaker based off a short film that he made called Xenogenesis. It was originally just to do model work, but I guess the original art director was fired, and so this model maker took his place. And the model maker's name is James Cameron.
Yes, yes, I thought that was really fascinating when I saw that. I was like, "Wow, I guess everybody has to start somewhere," but yeah.
Yeah. This leads to like a relationship with him and Corman, where eventually James Cameron started working on a movie called Piranha. Then eventually he like took over and directed the movie Piranha, which is the first movie he's made. And then 2 years later, he made a film called Terminator.
Mhm. And the rest is history.
Yeah, and then another connection for it, just to show like how how far it just all comes back to Corbin. Corman's assistant on the movie was a woman by the name of Gail Ann Hurd, who worked her way up to the point to where when she was starting to produce movies with Corman, and then started her own production company. She also teamed up with Cameron, and they both wrote the movie Terminator together.
Hmm.
And she kind of became like his producer. They also married and divorced pretty quickly.
Yeah, that happens a lot in Hollywood.
If you look at James Cameron's marriages, you notice a lot of them don't last so long, and a lot of them tend to be people he works with. The cast I will kind of save as we go through the movie because like there's like a lot of like really cool people in this movie.
Yeah.
One that I will point out though is the main guy who plays the character Shad. Did
Mhm.
you ever watch Little House on the Prairie?
I did. It's one of those things that I remember watching when I was, like, 6 years old on the couch, homesick, waiting for Price is Right to start. Like, that's my framing for any Little House on the Prairie content. Like, I sort of have vague memories of some of that during those times. I might have been delirious, though, it's very hard to tell. But yeah, I don't remember it super clearly, but now that you say that, because I did not recognize the guy when I saw the movie, but I now I'm kind of, like, picking up what you're putting down that he was in Little House on the Prairie.
Yeah. So the actor's name is Richard Thomas, and of course he's most famous for being John Boy, in Little House on the Prairie. Um, I mostly know him as the older Bill in the Tim Curry It miniseries.
Wait a minute, hold on. John Boy was in the Waltons, not
Oh
Little
my
House on the
god,
Prairie.
did I fuck up? Oh my god,
You wanna
oh,
run that back?
terrible. I'm gonna leave that in because I think that's hilarious.
Okay, yeah, no, and to be fair, I did not watch the Waltons. I just
Yeah.
know John Boy because I had an
Why did I
uncle named
write down Little
Joe
House
Boy,
on the Prairie?
so
Yeah. Why did I write down Little House on the Prairie? What the heck?
there is a guy in Little House on the Prairie that looks kind of like him, but I think that sort of blonde, I don't wanna say twink, but let's face it, twink kind of, like, style was kind of popular in the late '70s, early '80s. You had Christopher Atkins, you had, obviously Mark Hamill, stuff like that. Like, I feel like that vibe was kind of very castable at the time, so I it's probably an easy mistake to make.
So anyways, yes, he played John Boy on the Waltons. But I mostly know him for I haven't seen either show, so of course I would make that mistake.
Mm.
But I mostly know him as Bill from the It miniseries.
Ah, I never saw that. Is that the one with Tim Curry as Pennywise?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I didn't see that one. I was way too afraid of Tim Curry as Pennywise to watch that, so
He's also famously in the Tales from the Crypt episode. He's also in the Tales from the Crypt episode Mute Witness to Murder. And I only know that because I rewatched that episode a couple days ago, and I was like, "Oh my
Huh.
god, that's the guy from the movie I need to watch in a couple days." Where he plays it's actually a pretty interesting episode. It's like this woman it kind of starts out like a Rear Window thing where she's like watching like her neighbors, and then oh no, one of her neighbors kills someone, and then it makes her mute. And so they call the doctor to go check on her, and oh no, guess who the doctor is? It's him.
Okay, that's a cool premise, I like that. Yeah.
If you have Shudder, AMC Plus, like I recommend the episode. Have you ever seen or heard of this movie before? I Asked You to Come On.
No, not even close. I had never heard of it. I had to go find it, and, tragically, the link you sent me to it was not available in my country since I live in Australia.
Oh,
No, it's fine. I was able to find it on Amazon Prime and watched it there. So, yeah, I've just never heard of this. So, yeah, very new to me.
yeah. Sorry about that. I assumed since it was on like YouTube, it would be available for everybody,
Oh,
but
no,
I guess
it happens a lot. This is Australia. There's a lot of things that just aren't available here, so but yeah,
I
I
don't let
found
you
it.
do
We're good.
anything in Australia. It's like so many games that are banned.
Yep. Yeah, it's a strange place to be, but I found it, so we're good. But yeah, no, I'd never heard of it before this.
Yeah, I've only heard about it because I think I was just looking up like up spoilers. I was looking up movies like Seven Samurai,
Uh-huh.
and so this one is like it's Seven Samurais in space, which yeah, it
Yeah.
literally is. As I heard one YouTuber explain it, it's a remake of Magnificent Seven, which is also a remake of Seven Samurai.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Magnificent Seven, of course, was made with Akira Kurosawa's blessing, but at the end he didn't really think it was much like Seven Samurai. He thought it was just kind of a different beast altogether. So I when I watched this, I thought it was more Magnificent Seven than Seven Samurai. But
Yeah, it
yeah,
definitely.
that's yeah.
Well, I'm glad he approved that one because when it comes to the Yojimbo, it didn't seem like he gave all too much okay on that one.
No.
Yeah, the movie opens with fantastic score by James Horner, who James Horner, of course, is a legendary.
Yes. Yes, and he worked with James Cameron a lot, with Titanic and Avatar and stuff like that, yeah.
And
I will say James Horner, I mean, I know he scored a lot of things like, Jumanji and Braveheart and Apollo 13 and all that big stuff, but, like, for me, there was a fantasy movie that I watched as a kid that I don't think anybody else it's on my list of strange movies to review because I don't think anybody else has ever seen it, but it was called Krull, and
oh
he
yeah, I know
scored
Crow.
that too. Yeah. And I was like, "He scored Krull, oh my god." Like, that to me was like, "I know that one." And Krull fucked me up as a kid, not gonna lie, like, that scared the hell out of me as a kid.
Yeah,
But still, like, I need to go back and rewatch it as an adult because I haven't I haven't seen it framed through my grown-up eyes. So yeah, that's on my list. But yeah, I thought that like James Horner had his fingers in a lot of pies going through the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, and then what's kind of ironic is one of the last movies that he composed was a remake of The Magnificent Seven, the one
Which
with
one?
Denzel Washington.
Oh, The Hateful Eight?
No,
Oh no.
there was literally a remake of The Magnificent Seven in
Oh, they like an actual
2016.
remake. Oh, I
Yeah,
didn't even
it's
know
like
that.
Denzel
Yeah.
Washington, Chris Pratt, Ethan Hawke.
Wow.
I
I missed
actually
that one
like it.
entirely.
I actually like it better than the original, to be honest.
I'll have to look it up.
One thing about the score that I don't know if you caught, it's specifically the main theme. Did that sound familiar to you?
I mean, yes, but I feel like a lot of sci-fi movies from the early 80s borrowed a lot from each other. I mean, hell, even John Williams was borrowing from the planets when he was scoring Star Wars. So like a lot of things sound the same to me. So yeah.
Well, more accurately, James Horner was borrowing from himself because if you listen to the main theme from Wrath of Khan, it
That's right. Yeah.
it isn't this, but there's like moments where it's like you just reuse that.
And you can't blame them. I mean, if a composer is really, connected to a certain set of notes, you know they're going to work it in there, like even subconsciously, probably
Also,
more often than not. So I'm not mad at it, but yeah, you're right. That's definitely, yeah, there's a theme there.
also, it's not like people had YouTube, so you can go up and look up the scores. You basically,
True. Yeah, you
so
had to pull out your Wrath of Khan vinyl and play
yeah.
it and see if it matched up. Yeah.
So basically, it would be like you watch this like on video, and then you go watch Wrath of Khan, and you're like, wait a minute.
Yeah, exactly. Like, hmm.
But yeah, it's a very good score, I feel.
Yes, it is very strong.
Yeah, that's a good thing about Roger Corman is he definitely had an eye for talents, and he could luckily get that talent for very cheap. Which I forgot to say, this is one of his most expensive movies that he made. It's a full $2 million budget.
Wow, 2,000,000 $1980
Yeah,
or 2026 dollars? Okay, $1980. So probably
1980.
like 6 or 7,000,000 now.
Yeah, which just to compare it, Star Wars was 11 million,
Mm.
and Star Trek the motion picture was around 44 million budget.
Oof. Yikes.
So the fact that this movie looks as well, at least in my opinion, I guess we'll get to what you think. The fact that this movie looks as good as it does is honestly pretty impressive.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree with that.
But we are introduced to the planet Akir, which having a nod back to Seven Samurai, the villagers on this planet are called Akiras.
Yes, I thought that had to be intentional. Yeah.
That'd be funny if that was just a coincidence.
What a terrible coincidence. No, as soon as they said that, I was like, "Ah, yeah, Kurosawa. I see you."
We're introduced to our main villain, Satyr. I feel like I said it worse that time.
Is it Sador?
It's
Sador.
Satyr, yeah.
Okay, all right, yeah.
He is played by John Saxon, who is like another like big like B movie actor.
Mhm.
He's in a lot of big movies too. My favorites, of course, being Enter the Dragon and Nightmare on Elm Street,
Mhm.
and also Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors.
Oh, I didn't see that one.
But that's the best one in my opinion of the
Oh,
Nightmare on Elm
okay.
Street movies. But yeah, John Saxon, he's in a ton of like every like memorable like 70s like western or like sci-fi movie John Saxon's probably or horror movie John Saxon's probably in it. Sador is they call him a mutant, but he's basically as like kind of like a zombie almost.
Yeah, yeah, he's, like, replacing his own parts one he's like the villain of Theseus. Like, no part of him is the original.
They don't really like get into like what's up with him, but yeah, his basically his body parts just rot. Um,
Yeah.
which is assumingly why he needs this colony of people, so he can just take their parts. Um, he's also like the Creeper from Jeepers Creepers, a movie I will probably never cover as long as the director's still alive. Not going to get into why. Yeah, Sator arrives and he's basically just telling them like, "Oh yeah, this planet's mine. I'll be back in a couple days." Um, which of course, believe it or not, the villagers are not okay with that.
Go figure.
So they hatch a plan. This is where we're introduced to like a couple of the villagers, mainly Zeb and Shad. And the idea is for them to send someone out to go find mercenaries to come bring back, which is the standard Seven Samurai plot of just we got bad guys coming back in a couple of days. Let's go find people, and whether those people are samurais or cowboys or bugs.
Mhm.
It's really crazy to know that Pixar made a Seven Samurai movie when I was a
And it's
kid.
one of the best ones,
Yeah.
honestly.
Oh yeah, I love Bugs. A lot of people don't like A Bug's Life, and it's like I don't get it.
No, I like that one a lot. I think it was really well paced, and I think that, Hopper is one of the better villains they've created in a really long time, so, yeah.
Oh yeah, no, I agree with that. Shad, of course, he's our Luke Skywalker archetype. I really feel like they're like, we need like this handsome young farm boy that wants to go on an adventure.
Yeah, I'll be honest, when I watched it, I didn't connect that he was, like, a farm boy, like, he actually farmed anything. Like, I didn't feel like I had enough of his backstory to really know what he did, but I did absolutely see, like, "Oh, this is the Luke Skywalker character," like, they're definitely drawing from that trope that was so successful, so unexpectedly successful with A New Hope, so, yeah, like, that made perfect sense.
I just assumed he's a farm boy because I assumed just everyone on this planet is farming.
I mean, yeah, that does make sense.
Because I think like when they talk about the planet, it's basically just like surrounded by rock, and there's one little green part where that's where they live. Chad is like, I'm gonna go for these people, and Zeb gives him his ship, which of course the thing that makes the ship special is that the ship comes with a little AI called Nell, a very sassy AI.
Yeah. Yeah, I like Nell, she's good.
Yeah, I it's a fun dynamic to have. Chad is like more of like a serious type of character, so it's really good that he has like this like little like sassy like female AI to like kind of like bounce off of. She's constantly giving him shit. They kind of sprinkle out with the Vard. We're not really sure if like the Vard is like a god or just like a spiritual leader that they once had.
Or, like, just a belief system at this point? Yeah,
Yeah,
like, it just seems sort of like a set of rules they live by, but it's hard to tell if it's actually guided by something tangible or not.
yeah. But basically it's just the rules that they live by are they're kind of like a more peaceful. So when we get kind of like our first dogfight of the movie, Shad doesn't want to like kill anybody because he's like, oh no, that's not the Varda way. Nell helps him out though and just blasts them herself.
Which is a little bit of creepy foreshadowing on the potential dangers of AI and letting it control things like weapons,
Yeah.
but we're not gonna actually dig into that in this movie, so it's all good.
No, this is a funny character. Why would we dig into the dangers of it at all? Basically, Zeb told him like he should head to the space station to find Doctor oh my god, why can I pronounce things that I write? Hephius. Chad soon finds out that this is like a medical station and it is full of androids.
Yes. Yeah, well, and it seemed like on this station, like, there were all these androids, but it was kind of a full-time job just to keep them running. So it was just that was it. Like, that was the whole purpose was just this, like, infinite loop of fix androids, androids do things, androids break, fix them again. Like, that was just kind of it. There wasn't anything else happening. So, yeah, kind of a very static, almost a stagnant existence.
Yeah, and then we are introduced to his daughter.
The hot daughter, yeah.
Nanlea, is that how you say it?
Um, that was a good question.
Shows you how great of a character this is that neither of us can really remember how to say her name correctly.
It wasn't spoken much, and yeah, I'll be honest, she didn't leave a whole lot of, impression on me, I guess. Like, her role was very, very clear, she's the hot girl who's also like kind of contributing. She's not just a sexy lamp, which is good, but like, yeah, there just wasn't a whole lot to that character.
She is girl, she's there to kiss boy.
Yes, pretty much.
But Shad meets Dr. Hesius, and he's basically like, he's like in like this robotic iron lung, which is weird because he's like they make androids here. You would think they would just give him like a little cyborg body, but no, he's just stuck. He's just like a head like on this little like iron lung device, and he basically tells Shad like, hey, the outside world sucks. You should just stay here and mate with my daughter.
Yeah, that was really kind of gross. Like, it was unexpectedly gross. Yeah, I was just sort of like, oh, no, no.
And
Okay.
thankfully that Shad is decent enough of a human where he's like, what? No. What, have you even asked your daughter about this? What? So that was kind of good that he had that response instead of like, oh, I don't know, maybe when I come back or something like that.
Yeah, maybe later. Let me go fight this war first, and then I'll consider this horrible idea of yours. Yeah.
Instead, he convinces Nailea to actually come back with him because she has never seen the outside world. She was born on this space station and has like never left. So like even the concept of like wind is like foreign to her.
Yeah, yeah, and I will say that like it's cool to have that sort of like, oh, let's bring her out of her comfort zone and stuff. But because the movie was so constrained by the story it was trying to tell, they weren't able to really explore a lot of her adjusting to the outside world. Like from our perspective, she just goes right into it and she's fine. Like she even goes off on her own in her own ship to like find mercenaries and doesn't require any sort of hand holding or even really any information about how the space works. It's just sort of, okay, I got it. Here we go. And like that's fine because of the constraints of the timeline, but it's still a little frustrating because that's the kind of thing that I think makes characters interesting, is to see that adjustment period, like seeing them ease into a completely different, like that fish out of water thing is very like, that's a trope for a reason. And but to be fair, I had the same complaint about Castaway with Tom Hanks because when they rescue him from the island, they jump ahead like a few weeks and you don't see any of his reacclimation. And I was like, what? No, that's what I want to see. Like I want to see this man who's been trapped on an island for 5 years. I want to see him relearning how to be human. And they just skip ahead and like cut his hair and put him in a sport coat. And it's
Yeah.
like, well, damn. Okay, cool.
The
So
Castaway
like,
just remembers, oh yeah, didn't this start out as like a romantic movie? We have to get back to that.
they gotta get weird with it though, and have like a box with wings on it. Like this is a symbol for who the hell knows what it's a symbol for? But yeah, like that felt very off the rails to me. But the same kind of thing here, where it's like, yeah, that character could have been so much more interesting if they'd given her any sort of like learning to be part of space, the greater space around her. But she just nailed it. She was right in.
Yeah, and it really confused me too because I thought he was gonna wait for her to come on his ship, and then he leaves. I'm like, wait, I thought you were waiting for the lady. What's up? But no,
Nah,
she has her
she's
own ship.
fine. She's good. Yep, let her go.
Um,
She'll, in fact, you know what? She's going to go out and do the same job I'm doing with absolutely no
yeah.
information or any knowledge of how any of this works. Bye.
It's funny too. She's like, "Do you have any weapons?" And she's like, "Oh, I have a tricorder." She didn't say tricorder, but that's basically what it is. And then we kind of get ahead with our recruiting scenes because that's what you need to do with every Magnificent Seven thing
Hmm.
is do the recruiting. Except in a Bug's Life when he just found them all in one in one go.
Yeah, that made it a lot easier for the purposes of storytelling. Like they're just all together. That's easy. Yeah, this, and again, like I feel like because this movie's runtime is only like an hour and a half. And I feel like if it had gone a little longer, they could have spent more time really fleshing out these characters because there are so, like when you take on a Magnificent Seven plot, you're taking on so many characters. Like you have to, like you're going into this knowing there's going to be, at least a dozen named characters, probably more. So taking the time to really develop them, like you have to make a choice. Either you just choose not to and assume that everybody's cool with that, or you do get into it, but then you've got to balance that, like everybody's different dramas. And you could tell they tried to find a happy medium between there, and I don't think they super succeeded because like there were so many characters where I was like, I would like to know more, about this person and why they're like this or why this like we've gotten a little bit of a tickle of their story and I would like more of that, but there's just no time. We have to get into the war, we have to get into the battle. And it's like, okay, well that would have been cool, I guess. Maybe we'll get a spin-off with that person's story. But like, yeah, so like this it's enough to be frustrating, I guess, that it's like some of these characters were genuinely interesting, but we just don't get to spend that time with them.
Yeah, the thing that like helps Seven Samurai out is it is a 3-hour movie, so you have like all the time in the world to.
Yeah.
But like you said, this is 90 minutes, so we kind of need to speed it up.
Yeah, let's
um,
just book it.
so yeah, we are introduced to our first recruit, Cowboy. Sometimes he's just called Space Cowboy. Um, he has a flag that he should not be having on a ship, but
Yeah,
just
he does, and he's played by Hannibal from the A Team. So
yeah.
he, who is an actor that I like, but I think is only capable of playing just this one guy because he plays it everywhere, and like that's fine. It's probably just who he is as a person at this point. So
Yeah, he has a plan, and that's his thing.
he's got his tobacco and his whiskey and his swagger and his ma'am, and that's all you need. It works for him.
And he's from Earth, which
And
we
he's
don't.
from Earth.
Yeah, we don't
Yes.
learn anything about Earth.
No, we have no idea how Earth works in this whole like ecosystem of space or why he's still dressed like an 1890s cowboy but on a spaceship. Like none of that is ever explained, which again, that would have been interesting. Like I'm here for that. How is Earth involved? But no, no, we're good.
Apparently, he has just a bunch of like cowboy movie Blu-rays. That's what I'm gonna assume. That's what I'm assuming that he meant. He has
He's got the
Blu-rays.
lost media and he's just basing his life around it. Yeah.
Well, then again, as someone that put a bunch of PlayStation 2 games on a hard drive, I don't know if I could say that out loud. I'm sure, like in this current time, you can find a space external hard drive that could fit a lot of movies on them.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's just it's sort of like the Earth equivalent of like somebody who watches nothing but anime and then just starts wearing like, you know, the traditional Japanese outfits around the house and carrying a katana and stuff. And it's like, oh, I see. This is just your whole identity now. But like he doesn't seem to be cosplaying it. He just seems to be like, this is who I am. I'm a cowboy, and the fact that I'm in a spaceship doesn't matter. Shut up. Why are you asking? Like, let's get on with the story. And you're like, okay, yeah, you know, disbelief suspended. This guy's a cowboy in space. Like, I can work with this.
And he's hauling a bunch of laser blasters.
Yeah, he's an arms dealer, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. And so Shad gets another opportunity, to I'm gonna say it the way Nell would probably say it, to grow some balls and just kill some people.
Yeah. Yep.
But yeah, Shad is able to, fight off and kill the so-called. There's a lot of like phrases that are dropped, and it feels like this is like supposed to be a bigger universe, but I know this is just everything. So he's fighting off these people called the Jackers.
The Jackers. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot that goes unexplained. And like you said, it feels like either the universe itself was a lot bigger and it was cut for time, or it was one of the situations where they're trying to make it feel like a richer, deeper universe by just dropping in terms with that understanding that like the audience is going to recognize in context that this term matters, but not enough to explain because it's sort of assumed that you are part of the universe, and we're making that assumption that like it's just sort of a nod to like, yes, of course you're not going to understand this, but you don't have to. Just know that it's part of the universe. And like sometimes people like that. It makes them feel like they're sort of in on a secret. So that's fine. But also like it does open up that door to like, wait, what is this? Like, can we get more of that, please? And like, nah, no, you don't get any more of that.
Like the 80s Dune movie, apparently like when that premiered, the theaters would hand out little cards that had like
Yes.
descriptions
Yes,
for everything.
exactly. Yeah, the definitions. Yeah.
Just like, what the fuck's a mentat? You just look at the cards.
Yeah.
Like, oh,
And
okay.
again, like it's very immersive to just jump right in. And I try to do that with some of the stories that I tell is that like try to make the world building part of the exposition and sort of like surround your audience with it and let them sort of learn as they go. And as long as you do that in like trickling bits, it can work really well. But if you just drop them into a space and be like, the Bleagle did Blaggle and blah, 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 and you're like, wait, what? No, you can't. No, you gotta give people like there has to be some connection to the world they know to ease them into, what it's one of the reasons why I think most of the aliens in this, most of the characters are humanoid, because you have to spend less time sort of visually explaining who these people are to the humans watching the movie if they're already looking and talking like us. So like you have to devote less of the energy of the movie to getting people comfortable with these non-human creatures, and you can focus more on the storytelling. But yeah, that whole like fully immersive thing, like I think some filmmakers do it because they're trying to be clever and try to make it seem like there is much more going on than there is. But if you're not going to stop and explain it, you either need to establish why it doesn't matter, like this really genuinely doesn't affect the plot, so don't worry about it, or you have to have a really good reason for not explaining it that makes sense in the canon of the story. And I don't think they really hit either of those well.
Yeah, no, it was like, well, Star Wars is a bunch of races and like different like organizations and stuff, so let's just drop them, and then people are going to be
Yeah.
waiting for the explosions to happen, so they're not going to be thinking about it too long.
Yeah, you could see the elements, and when you mentioned Star Wars, there was so much that was borrowed or at least inspired by that. If you put the two movies next to each other, and I know the budget, of course, is a big constraint, but like it's just a very like you can see where they're trying and failing to capture that same vibe. And it just I feel like it just comes down to like that pacing and that like picking and choosing which things you're going to explain and which things you're just going to let lie. And they just picked the wrong stuff. I think like they just yeah, I mean it is kind of charming to watch them try, but and it is, it's a fun thought experiment. Like if they had another 30 minutes of runtime and another $5 million, maybe they could have really done something here, but they didn't. So this is what we get.
Yeah. Um and this scene also gives them an easy way to have a bunch of weapons, because they get to the planet that Cowboy is supposed to sell the weapons to, and it's been destroyed by Sator.
Yeah,
So he's just like,
exactly. Yeah.
"Hey, do you want the guns?"
I have a ship full of guns and nowhere to take them. Oh, you're at war? Well, that's convenient.
Sator sucks. I'll go help you. Which is seems to be how a lot of the people
Oh,
join.
yeah, I was gonna say, like, it seems like most people's motivation was just, oh, this guy is a known asshole. Let's all work together, even if we don't like each other, and fight the known asshole. And it's like, again, that sort of feels a little rushed. Like, we just need a reason for these people to get together and fight. And sometimes the best reason is just shared enemy. But again, you don't really get a lot of that backstory of why everybody hates him so much. Like, you can kind of get the vibe because he's a terrible person. But, like, there's so many points where I was like, man, I wish they would develop this more, or I wish they would spend 5 minutes explaining this or whatever, because like there's these little nuggets of like this could have been really interesting, but they don't have time and they don't want to like go off on a tangent when you know what the core story is. So it's like, oh man, like yeah, it ends up feeling a little emptier or a little rushed because you just don't get that sort of depth to the motivation for these characters.
Yeah. And then we have the next scene, which introduces like three more things that you need to like kind of be like, wait, what?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And you're just trying to keep up at this point and like you said, get to the explosions.
Yeah. So Nilea, I think her name is Nilea. I think I've remembered it now.
Okay.
She is captured by this alien that is like just completely made of life, called a Zyme. But then she is saved by Cayman, who is like a lizard guy, and then he also has these two little aliens that apparently are just made out of thermal energy.
Yeah, and again, like that to me was like, "Oh, that's cool." Like these are creatures that communicate with temperature. Like that's a cool idea. Tell me more about that. And then in the end they just use them as like a campfire.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? No. Like you're cooking over the aliens. What the hell?"
Turns out Cayman, he is not as good of a guy as he seems. Actually, he kind of comes out being an asshole from the get-go.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
but he just tells Nylea that yeah, we're probably just gonna, we're gonna turn you into food, or we're gonna sell you. And then she basically says like, you are just as bad as Sador. And he's like, Sador, fuck that guy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very much that whole, like, up to this point, I'm absolutely garbage, but, "Oh, we have a common enemy. Okay, you're cool then, we won't eat you." Like, "Oh, okay. Sure."
Which we do find out later. through like just like a simple line of dialogue that Sador actually killed his people. So he's like the last
Yeah.
one of his race, and that's why he wants to do it. But we don't get a scene of him explaining that. It just kind of comes in at the end. You're like, oh, I get it.
I mean, you assume it's something like that. Like, there's obviously a lot of hate there, and having seen Sador, threaten to or actually explode other planets, like he's got his planet killer, we're not going to call this a Death Star, but it is a Death Star. Um,
Oh, the
like
Hammerhead.
that, yeah. So that's just the assumption, I think, is when anybody's mad at Sador, it's because he probably blew their planet up. And most of the time that's a safe assumption. So like we can kind of gloss over that. But yeah, again, it would have been cool to have that depth a little sooner.
And then we got another person down for the team. We actually get a bunch of, technically, we get a bunch of people from this one, but we're just counting Cayman and everyone else
Yeah.
is extra.
Yeah, pretty much.
I feel like a lot of like the next couple of scenes that we're going to talk about are like, this is a cool idea. We don't get anything out of it, but it's a really cool idea.
Yeah, there's so much of that in this movie.
Because Shad comes across five completely white aliens. Turns out they are clones, and they all share a consciousness called Nestor.
Yes, and to me this was like early Borg, but like nice.
Yeah,
Nice early Borg.
but yeah, that's actually a good compare. That's actually a good way to say it. They're the nice Borg.
Yes, they're the
They don't
friendly
care.
Borg.
They don't care about a simulation. They just kind of want to stimulate their minds and stuff.
Mhm.
So this is probably the most fun way that we kind of like get someone recruited because they can also I want to point out they only need four of them technically. They have I really like the line for one of them is just like we need four people to fly this ship. It's like, well, you have five. It's like, we bring a spare. And so yeah, basically their thing is that they're kind of bored and so they want to find something interesting to do and they're like, yeah, fighting like a this warlord, that sounds fun, can we join?
Yeah, like give us some stimulation any which way we can. Like they don't have really any morality to speak of. It's literally just intellectual curiosity.
And then we are introduced to our next character. They go to this planet where it's like it's almost talked about like it's supposed to be like, oh yeah, we're going to the Mos Eisley Cantina,
Mhm.
but it's like a completely dead and barren planet. And this is where we're introduced to Guilt, who is played by Robert Vaughn, who
Mhm.
was actually in the Magnificent Seven.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, I saw him and I was like, "Oh, this guy I recognize."
Yeah, which I mean, if you watch like you said you watch stuff with your dad. If your dad was in westerns, you've probably seen Robert Vaughn a million times. He's in a ton of like westerns or horror movies. He was also in the show The Man from Uncle.
Mhm.
That was like his big thing. So like yeah, like Robert Vaughn, he's like a really big B movie actor. Geltz is this like career criminal that he's just surrounded by like a horde of treasures, but he can't spend it anywhere because he's wanted on every planet.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a fugitive.
Yeah, but this is another interesting way that he kind of joins is he doesn't really care about the money or the glory. He just sees like this little backwater planet that Chad is from. That would be a good place to, to like hide and relax finally. And so they make a deal that like I'll help you, just give me a place to live so I can hide.
Yeah, like I felt like with him, it felt like less about hiding because he was already hiding. It felt more about community. Like the appeal was we have people that will feed you and house you and you can live among us and, be safe. And like he had his safety. He was fine where he was, but he was alone. And I think the
Yeah.
real appeal was like, sorry, we have nothing to give you except food and community. And he's like, that's literally all I need. Like, I have everything else I could need. So, yeah, it felt to me like he was just a profoundly lonely guy and very, if not regretful of his choices, at least very cognizant of the consequences of his actions and just wanted that chance to sort of like die in peace basically with people around him and to be fair, I felt like the movie spent the most time developing him as far as the peripheral characters went. I thought he got the most emotional growth and the most, focus, I suppose. Like every time he was on camera, it felt like he was the focal point of the scene.
Yeah, and I think that's helped by the fact that they casted Robert Vaughn, because Robert Vaughn, like, he wasn't like the hugest actor, but he was one of those actors that even when he had like, he was in like some crappy like Italian zombie movie, he like really tried. Like he didn't like
Yeah.
half-ass it or anything. So you can really tell that like he tried to get something from this performance. And even if the movie doesn't kind of get into that from like how he's playing the character, that's like very easy to kind of determine from just from the way he's delivering lines or the way he's just, kind of looking at Shad. So,
Yeah.
there's a surprise, like, despite like how cheesy this movie is, this is the thing that makes movies like this great is you get people who actually care.
Yeah, and I feel like if you look at this movie in particular, there's such a difference between like the actors who are sort of underdeveloped or very one note or whatever, and then you get actors like him who have this depth and this gravitas that when they're on screen you can't really look away from them, and they're like you said, he's taking it very seriously. He's acting his heart out, but it is a very sort of muted, understated performance because the character is very guarded. He's got his walls up, but he's still able to convey so much emotion and so much depth with very little said, and just these facial expressions and these gestures, and like that profound difference in acting ability is sort of like thrown into stark relief in a movie like this, where you see the handful that are just absolutely exceptional, masters of their craft, put next to these people that are still sort of learning, or maybe this isn't really the job for them. And it just makes them stand out even more, is like, you deserve a better movie, sir. Like,
Yeah,
you deserve a
definitely.
better space.
Yeah, that's why it's like it always sucks when people like write off like movies like this because they look so cheap and stuff like that. But like you know, there'll always be movies where the people like really care and they want to they want to make it, at the very least they want to make a fun movie that is able to entertain you for 90 minutes. But
Yeah.
and while we're here praising this actor doing so much with so little, and like giving the movie like something kind of serious that you can like look up to, we are introduced to Saint X-Men.
Yeah.
um because of course Roger Corman's philosophy is that the most important thing for any movie like this is you need to sell it. What better way to sell a movie than putting a hot woman in a skimpy outfit on the cover?
Yeah. Oh yeah, 100%. Like, let's have a Valkyrie. Why not?
So yeah, Saint X-Men, she's played by Cybil Danning, who is, famous for being in a lot of like, horror B movies and European sexploitation films.
Huh. Yeah, I saw that she won an award, like a sci-fi award
Oh yeah, the
for
Saturn
this
Award.
movie. Yeah. But it wasn't specific. I like my the gist I got was it wasn't specifically for this movie. Because when I saw that, I was like, oh, now I'm gonna like before I watched the movie, I saw that I was looking at the awards it had won, and I was like, oh, she must be really important to the story. Like she must be a really cool character. And I was so ragingly disappointed when I actually watched it, and I was like, "Okay, this must have been more of, like, a Lifetime Achievement Award that she won for all of, like, her body of work, because she's clearly been around this space for a really long time, but this was not it. Like, this role was not the highlight of her career."
Yeah. Um, Highlight of her career was probably The Howling 2, Your Sister's a Werewolf.
And what a thing to have on your resume, you know? Like, I love that.
Very famous thing about that movie is there's a scene where, she takes off her cloak to reveal her boobs, and then the end credits replays that scene like 30 times. And
Wow.
she did not like that.
I can't imagine why not. Yeah, that's at least she gets to stay dressed in this one.
Yeah, for the most part, yeah. Sadly, she retired from acting in in the early 80s. I couldn't find out information. I'm sure there's an interview that I missed where she explains it very clearly why, but it really seems like she couldn't like get like above where she was at. So she's
Mm,
kind of like, okay, maybe this acting thing isn't for me. Cuz I doubt, you're an actress. I doubt you just want to like do movies that just focus on like your boobs forever.
yeah. Yeah, exactly, but she kinda got typecast doing that much work, which, on the one hand, it's a paycheck, but on the other
Yeah.
hand, yeah, you will sort of 86 your own options going forward if you keep putting yourself in those roles.
She did kind of like start doing things again in the late aughts, early tens. Seemed to be like a lot of like LGBT Q based stuff. Um, so Yeah, she hasn't
That's
really
good.
acted much since like that little period, so it's kind of nice that she was able to like come back and do a couple more things. Like hopefully
Yeah,
she
for sure.
enjoyed making.
Good for
But
her.
yeah, Saint X-Men of the Valkyrie. Um, yeah, they're called Valkyrie, so obviously she comes from a warrior race, specifically a warrior race that they like to live fast and hard and have a glorious death.
So it's like hot Klingons, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, basically,
Or
yeah.
or maybe white scars from 40K.
So she's got a little tiny baby ship that moves very fast. I used to, the first time I watched this scene, I thought Shad was just being an asshole to her, but I realize now that he's trying to like get her to follow him. Like that's his way. Oh, she's playing with me. I'm gonna play with her back.
Mhm. Yeah.
If you don't have like that context, it really just sounds like Shad's like, you got a little tiny ship. We don't want you. Go away.
Well, and to be fair, like I feel like when I watched it, I felt like he could go either way. Like on the one hand, it's like we need all the help we can get, but on the other hand, what good is this little tiny ship with this very belligerent woman in it going to do? Like if she's going to be a pain in the ass, she's not going to be very helpful. So he was probably very like, whatever, like do what you want. Like if you want to help us, great. If not, piss off. But like I don't have time for this. Like games are the one thing we don't have time for. So like, yeah,
Yeah, how she kind of like they're almost like playing like tag, and that's like how she's
yeah.
like showing like, see, like I'm good, hire me.
But she's not in it for anything other, like in her case, her motivation is glory and like I said, a glorious death and live fast, die hard. So yeah, like she does in her case, it's nothing at all to do with who the enemy is or any riches that could be earned or the safety of a backwater planet. It's just I want to blow stuff up and maybe die in the process. And it's like, okay, I can respect that. That's fine. Like whatever. I was though a little disappointed in her character because it was so one note, she was just so belligerent, so just like pissy all the time. Like, and I get that that's how it was written and that's fine, but like it was just very, I want to fight everything now and I'm going to fight you and I'm going to fight you and why aren't we fighting? But then she has that one scene where she's explaining to the girlfriend how sex works.
Oh, I have that quote written down.
And then like they never revisit that. Like there's just one scene where they're like laughing together about sex and then that's it. And it's like, okay, something was left on the cutting room floor there. Like there was more going on to this scene that they just didn't include. And I just kind of wish they hadn't included any of it because it was so out of left field and just so tonally dissonant from the rest of it. And I was like, wait a second. What? Like where did this come from? But yeah, we'll get to that.
Like, let me show you where to use your hands or something like that.
Yeah, something like, and it's like, and they're laughing about it together, and I'm like, nothing about this feels like a conversation between like a virgin who's lived among androids her whole life and this very angry Valkyrie who literally just met everybody, but apparently has decided to be like the sexual mentor for this girl, and then that's it, and we just never come back to it. And it's like, huh, okay, and it was like a minute long scene, like it wasn't a very long scene at all, maybe even less than a minute, and it was just sort of like, what? No. Just hold on. What? Like it just yeah, the tonal dissonance was very jarring.
We kind of skipped over this part, but to be honest, the movie barely gives it any time. Sator left like two of like his alien goons behind, and they just randomly decide to kidnap one of the villagers. Unfortunately, it's a Shad's sister.
That okay. I have thoughts about this. So yeah, I get why he leaves a couple of guys behind just to make sure that, the planet doesn't get up to any hijinks while he's gone. But the kidnapping this like they suddenly just I guess get horny. They get bored. They kidnap Shad's sister. And then later you see that they've basically been sexually assaulting her for a long time, like at least hours, if not days. And then she, basically manages to stagger up and help destroy them. But like, what? Like, was that necessary? Like, and she dies. She takes herself out with it.
I had to
So it's
rewind that
like,
a couple of times to be like, wait,
yeah.
she didn't just die, did she?
She did. She died. And after being just like brutally assaulted by these two guys for God knows how long. Like I had thought when they were like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna kidnap her and we're gonna like do what we want with her." Usually, when it's a movie like this and they do that, something happens to interfere with the assault before it occurs, right? Like
Yeah.
somebody comes along and stops it, or she fights back and wins, or whatever. Not this time. No, it was implied that they just did whatever the hell they wanted for God knows how long, and then her only way of rescuing herself was to kill them all, including herself. And it's
Yeah.
like, it felt like such a dark, jarring, unpleasant, really kind of gross element in an otherwise kind of campy, silly movie.
Yeah. No, I
And
agree.
yeah, again with the tonal dissonance, like I feel like this movie didn't really know what it wanted to be. It's like on the one hand, it wanted to be this super serious, like space drama with the guy that has no safe place to live and this like very dark sexual assault theme. But then also it's like, oh, but we also want to be fun and campy so we don't scare people away. And this is a family movie. And it's like, pick one. Like pick a lane. You cannot be all things to all people. And it's like, yeah, that sexual assault thing really threw me because I was like, oh, they actually went there. They actually, and then she kills them all and herself, and I'm like, oh, they actually went there. Okay, what kind of movie is this exactly? Like, did
Yeah,
it?
you
Yeah,
hit
it
the
was
completely.
very very out of left field. I really, it felt very contrived. It felt very like they shoehorned it in to have some of that darkness to be like, no, guys, this is a real serious thing. Look how serious it is. It's very serious. And it's like, we get it. Like, the planet's under attack. You don't need to zoom in on this particular horrible assault to make your point. Like, that's unnecessary.
It almost seems like it would be a good way to set up, like, the heroes kind of like having like a battle like just before they get to the planet, but they
Yeah.
don't like do anything. She like
No.
kills them and then
Yeah, she
herself.
kills them. Yeah.
And then
And
if
it's
I
like, yeah.
recall, Shad doesn't really like have like doesn't even really like discuss this at all.
No, nothing is acknowledged. After she's gone, nothing is really acknowledged. There's no like mourning period. There's no, Luke Skywalker moment staring off into the suns over Tunisia, trying to like come to grips with the death of a family member. No, no. It's just like, what sister? Like she served her purpose as a character to be both, object of abuse and sacrificial lamb. And I guess that's all she was good for. And cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really unnecessary.
And then it's not like, even if you're trying to be like, oh, it's like for sex appeal or something like that, it's not like they put her in like a skimpy outfit or something like that.
No. No.
So it's like
And
I don't really get what the point of this scene is.
and again, like you said, there's no skimpy outfit. There's no even actual like scenes of them groping her or anything. Not that that would have been like at all titillating, but like, some movies do that to be especially, harsh and graphic. But like, yeah, none of that. It was literally just implied that she was assaulted off screen and she manages to like get herself together enough to fight back and kill all of them. And it's seen as this big, noble, heroic sacrifice. And I don't know if they're trying to say with some version of subtext that like that was her role after being damaged goods was to take herself out in a blaze of glory with them, or what. Like they sort of implied that she didn't have a way to survive after this. Yeah, it's a very strange vibe that does not fit the rest of the movie at all. And I feel like it was very, like, it almost makes you wonder, like, was this a mandate from the studio or something? Like, did they really want
You need one
to?
sexual assault for us to distribute the movie.
I mean, honestly, like it
But see,
doesn't raise the stakes because it resolves itself. Like there's like Shad doesn't come back into the system and go, "Holy shit, they've got my sister. We've got to do something." Like it would have been a great like twist in the third act if they came back and it became like it's not just about the planet, it's very personal to him now. Like that would have been a useful like way to promote that scene in a way that like makes the storytelling better. But they didn't. They just did it in a vacuum, like a little island of crap. And it's like what that contributed nothing to the story. It added nothing. It was just kind of there for the flavor of cruelty. And like we already knew these guys were bad. Like we had all this other evidence these guys were bad. We didn't need such a personal and potentially triggering situation that then opens up the door for this additional emotional exploration, which doesn't happen because they don't do it. So it's like that, yeah, it was the most anti-scene in all of the scenes.
my theory, which I mean, based on like how these movies go, this, who knows, this could be true. I feel like they ran out of time with the actress. Like, she's like, I can only shoot for 2 days now. She's like, oh, dang it, we need to write you out of the movie. You get captured, and then we'll shoot it in like a day. Just go ahead, like you get captured, then you blow up the ship, whatever. Like,
Uh,
that's the only thing I can
maybe,
think of.
but honestly, like, they could easily just have been, like it could have been anybody else they captured. Like, it didn't have to be her.
Yeah, or it could have been Shad while you're gone. The bad guy shot her. That's like, oh,
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like, when you look at the storytelling element, like, when they're looking at the planet and they're looking at all the hot chicks and the wedding that's going on and stuff like that, and they're like, "We need to pick somebody and kidnap them and, sexually assault them." They're scanning the crowd and stuff. You have to ask yourself, why did the filmmakers choose Shad's sister to be the person they took? And you think they must be going somewhere with this. And in the end, like, the only direction they went with it is, I guess they're trying to imply that she is as brave as he is because she killed these guys and herself to prevent any further assaults, I suppose. But, like, that's like, a woman's bravery needs to be centered around more than just sex. Like, it needs to be, it seems like in a lot of cinema, there's this lazy storytelling where it's like a woman's strength either comes from having been sexually assaulted, and therefore she is stronger and better and able to fight back, or her strength comes from being a mother and she's protecting her offspring. And that's really the only two ways a woman in lazy storytelling is allowed to get stronger. And they chose the first one for her. But like you said, there was such a short window of shooting with her that they couldn't really develop it. And it wouldn't have been good if they had. Like, that's still bad storytelling. Now it's just bad and abbreviated storytelling. So yeah.
after that, the movie kind of quickly moves on, and
Yeah, what assault? Back to the story.
the heroes arrive. Um, I don't know why this is the first thing I thought, but I was thinking of in Wizard of Oz when Dorothy is like, she arrives in Munchkin Land, and the witch is just like, "Oh, you're in Munchkin." It's like, "Where are the Munchkins?" And you just hear him in the background like laughing, and then they come out of nowhere, like, "Yeah, they were just
Yeah.
hiding." So all the Akirians, they don't say all
The
all
people of
the
Akir.
yeah,
Yes.
they were hanging out in their little huts that but they finally come out and they're like, "Yeah, well, we're worried about you. You guys are strangers, but we're okay with you guys now."
Yeah. I mean, sure. Why not? Fuck it
They're
at this
like
point.
they're like, "We got 40 minutes left. We're gonna get over our fear of you already."
I mean, we're a planet with absolutely no defenses, not even the most basic kind, like not even a damn scarecrow. So, like, yeah, do what you want. Like, this is fine.
One defense, apparently, they have this little xylophone thing that sends sonic energy to their dirt, and it can create ditches.
That's true. Yes, the hole digger. Yep.
And then what's funny, I don't even really think that gets used.
A couple. They reference it a couple of times, like, "Oh, why don't you dig a few more holes?" And then that's kind of it. We don't really see it in action because they didn't have the budget to show it.
Yeah.
Like, we see a little of it, but not, the most aggressive uses of it. And then, yeah, it just sort of gets sidelined because, again, what are you gonna do with that? Like, it's basically repurposed farm equipment. Like, you're not gonna be able to adequately defend, like, obviously for people like this, guerrilla warfare is gonna be your only chance to fight back against invaders, but, like,
Yeah.
that's just holes in the ground. Like,
Well, they got
no.
a bunch of blasters, so that'll help.
Yeah, now that Cowboy's here, yeah.
But yeah, we spend like the next like 5 minutes of the movie basically just having like preparing for it. Cowboy meets another one of the Akira's.
And they get together so fast, like, another yeah, I don't understand the whole, like, suddenly he's got his arm around her and they're together and they're cooking over the thermal aliens, and then, like, there's all this emotional, like, "I'm gonna have to, like, do this, and you're gonna have to do this, and you can't come with me," and all this other stuff, and it's like, we just met these people. Like, I don't have any emotional investment in Cowboy or whatever random chick on this planet he's decided to, like, hook up with. I don't like, we've had zero development of their relationship, zero stakes. I don't care. Like, I'm looking at her going, I genuinely don't care what happens to you. Like, I just don't. So yeah, like, they again with the little shoehorn, like, oh, we need a little extra romance, or we need a little extra emotion, or maybe, they thought this would actually raise the stakes, but we don't know her well enough to care. So it's like there are no stakes. It just feels like this very unnecessary, like, speed run relationship, and they literally go from "Hi, nice to meet you" to "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry I have to leave you," over the course of, like, a minute and a half, and it's like,
Yeah. It almost
"Okay."
it almost feels like that it's like, "Ooh, an Earth man. That's cool." It might just be the fact that he's probably the most handsome out of the people that they bring.
Uh, yeah, but also, like, he's got a flask of scotch on his waist, and he's a chain smoker,
Yeah,
so,
look,
the
he has, like, a drink dispenser built.
Yes. Yeah, built into his waist, and it's like, I feel like she could do better, maybe, I don't know. I just yeah, anyway.
And, this is where we come up with the scene of, where the scene of, say, X-Men and, Nylea are talking, and I have this quote here. I'm gonna go ahead and read it.
Okay.
I could do wonders for that boy. I would recharge his capacitors, stimulate his solenoid, tingle dingle prangle his transistors. You know, sex.
Uh, again, what kind of movie does this movie wanna be? Like, we've gone from horrific assault and self-sacrifice to dingle dangle transistors, like, ugh, god.
As far as I know, this movie's PG, so that in before PG-13 came around, PG
Yeah.
basically meant for everyone.
Yeah, this movie would have been a prime candidate for PG-13 had it, existed then, but yeah, no, it's just, and again, I know they're trying to play it for laughs, the sex stuff, but, like, you can't you can't juxtapose sexual assault and suicide with, taking out the bad guys with a goofy ass conversation about sex. Like, you can't put those 2 scenes that close together and not expect whiplash from people. Like,
Mhm.
it's not the same movie. And I mean, honestly, like, half the time watching this, it felt like halfway through the director, like, replaced with a different director. Like,
That wouldn't surprise me if that was the case, to be honest. I couldn't find any information about it, but yeah, I'd believe that.
it just very, yeah, it felt like somebody else's work. Like, now it's gonna be a comedy, and it's like, okay, sure. Like, I whatever. It's yeah. I mean, and again, like, I get the idea of having elements of comedy and drama and seriousness and silliness and stuff in the same movie. But if you do it wrong, you don't get that cohesive, complete, full picture storytelling that you're looking for, like a Forrest Gump kind of thing. You end up with more of a tonal dissonance, like Disney's Hunchback of Notre Dame, where you have, like, woman being burned at the stake and a gargoyle playing cards with a pigeon, and thinking that that is okay in the same movie, and it's not. Like, that tonal dissonance, you can't reconcile those 2. So, like, it is a very fine line, and I don't envy filmmakers for having to try to walk that line, but I feel like they fail more than they succeed, and this is a really prime example of how.
And we keep up the awkward sex stuff because soon after this, we have a scene of our two leads flirting and eventually kissing. And the writing in the scene is so goofy that I could not help but laugh.
Oh, it's so bad. It's so bad, and again, like, it feels like a mandate from the studio, like, we need the love interests to make out at least once, and it's like, in real life, they're about to get attacked by this, like, megalomaniacal, sadistic asshole who's gonna wipe out their planet. I highly doubt they're gonna, like, have the emotional capacity to be doing this right now. I mean, maybe a little survival instinct would kick in, and that sort of, like, wanting to continue life at all costs thing might kick in, but ultimately, it always feels a little flat to me when they try to shoehorn in these relationship moments in a situation where the stakes are literally life and death, and your Maslow's hierarchy of need is going to place survival far more importantly than making out, as far as, like, where your psyche is in that moment. But yeah, it felt so goofy and so out of place, and just yeah, I and honestly, the kiss, I don't know if I've seen a lot of actors with less chemistry than these two. Like, this was bad. This was some bad like, yeah, no, I did not believe for a second that they had any interest in each other.
I have to compare this to the kisses that he did on the Waltons,
The Waltons, yes.
because I remember he was on the Waltons. That part when I said Little House on the Prairie, that was a gag. It was not a fuck up. But yeah, it's I do kind of wonder like how many people watch this movie just specifically because of him.
That's a good question. I think The Waltons was a pretty big show at the time. Like I said, I never watched it, but I know enough to know that it was a thing people watched, and during a time when there were fewer options on television, like there weren't 500 channels and a million reruns of Antiques Roadshow for people that had nothing else to watch. It was probably very popular, and it's possible he was a major draw for this movie. He is prominently featured on the poster. So
Yeah. Um so finally the battle begins. Pretty much the next like 5 minutes of the movie is the battle. In fact, not pretty much. Yes, it is. The rest of the movie is the battle.
yeah,
The
yep,
battle beyond the stars, as they call it.
like a Star War.
He already went on some kind of Star Trek. Now he's gonna go
Now
on
he's
a
on a
Star
Star
Wars.
War. Yeah.
And then on the ground, they're gonna have a kind of like a Stargate to block the people.
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird how these things all come together.
They're gonna use a bunch of Warhammers on them, 40,000. I'm out,
Hmm.
I'm out of dumb jokes.
I was
I'm
trying
just
to think of
kidding. I
something for
think of one.
Farscape, but I couldn't get there. So, yeah.
Then they're gonna fight Jim Henson puppets. That doesn't work.
Jim Henson was, doing his own thing at this time, which was probably would have been a better movie, honestly, if this was all Jim Henson. If they'd treated this like Muppet Treasure Island or Muppet Christmas Carol, where it was mostly Muppets and like one human person playing it absolutely serious, this would have been amazing. This movie would have been outstanding. I had to watch the hell out of this movie. But nope.
To be fair, when the Jim Henson Company did do a Muppets in Space, it almost killed the franchise. So I don't know if
Yeah,
that was
wasn't that
really
more recent though? Wasn't that like
90,
the 20
98, I think. I don't know.
1998? Okay. Yeah, there was an era where the Muppet projects were just not great,
Pretty
but
much after Treasure Island.
yeah, Christmas Carol was great, Treasure Island was great, and then yeah, not so much after that. But if this had been in that era, if they had treated it like, imagine if it was like the kid, the Waltons kid here, and then all Muppets, everybody else. Miss Piggy is the Valkyrie. It's yeah, like that would have
Kermit is
been
Space Cowboy.
yeah. I mean, this could have been well. Actually, the cowboy probably would have been like Gonzo, and he would have like grape juice in his little flask. But yeah, like honestly, could have been outstanding. And now I kind of hope it gets remade like that because that would have been. All right, Jim Henson Creature Shop, get on it. Come on, make a bid for the rights. Let's go.
So this is when we kind of get back to like the effects of the movie, which like once again for like how cheap this movie is, like effects are pretty good. Um
Yeah,
the ships kind of like you can tell they don't have like much movement to them,
yeah.
but with like the background and stuff, they actually, I could actually buy this is like happening. Like once again, it's no Star Wars, but
Yeah, yeah, no. I thought the effects were surprisingly good for the time. I thought the one thing that I kind of struggled with a little bit was that other than Shad's ship, which kept giving me like moose testicle vibes,
oh yeah,
like
it
it
looked like something. I could have put my finger on it. But
yeah, like there was something about it. It was I think they were aiming for kind of an organic look to it, but it really just kind of came across as weird. But outside of that ship, the other ships to me were very hard to tell apart.
yeah.
Like they were very similar. They were very similarly colored. They're kind of similarly shaped. And I thought, like as I was watching it, I was like, Star Wars did a better job of sort of differentiating the bad guys' ships, this armada of, exactly identical, bright white, pointy ships versus the rebels and their sort of hodgepodge and their X-Wings and the Millennium Falcon is such an iconic shape. And I think they were trying to do that with Shad's ship to have some sort of very iconic, like memorable shape, but they didn't really put that effort into the others. And at the end of the day, Shad's ship is not sexy. Like the Millennium Falcon is sexy. Like you look at that and you go, I want to fly that thing. Like that looks like basically a sports car in space. Shad's ship looks like a Volvo in space. And nobody wants that. So, yeah.
It'd be funny if it was a case of like, all right, make the models for the ships, and it's like, okay, this is all of Sador's ships, and it's like, wait, that's all we had. Those are all the models that we could afford. It's like, I guess some of these are the good guy ships then.
Yeah, it's kind of the vibe because there were a few times in the battle where I was looking at going, okay, who's that? Which ship is that? Is that a good guy or is it a bad guy? And it really was hard to tell because like it moved very quickly. There were a lot of cuts, and and like you said, the ships didn't have a lot of movement themselves, and it was just very hard to tell like who was who and where the battle was falling and what was actually happening. And that, again, like you said, the budgetary constraints were probably a huge part of that. But I know they did the best with what they had. But I found the battle stuff to be some of the most boring because it just didn't, like, it was kind of muddy to me. I couldn't really tell what was happening.
Yeah. We do get a ground battle, which to be honest, I prefer like ground battles. Like I was one of those
Hmm.
kids who, when I would watch Power Rangers, would be like, I don't care about the Megazord. I want to see them fight I want to see them fight the
Yeah, the
in the
ninja
ground.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've always been like more interested to like bringing Star Trek up again. One of my favorite episodes of Deep Space Nine is when they have like a ground battle
Yeah.
against the Dominion. It's because even though the Deep Space Nine, like, space battles are great, but it was just really cool to just have like Cisco just, stand there and shoot a gun at people.
Yeah. No, that's badass. It's very, I mean, in the original Star Trek, Kirk punched everybody. Like
Yeah.
that was fun to watch your manly, strong captain walk up and like actually hit somebody or actually shoot somebody. Like that's very engaging and it's a lot more personal and like character development wise than a random ship in space firing lasers. So yeah, I absolutely get it.
Yeah. And so we have Cowboy and the Akiras doing the tactic of standing side by side in a line and shooting at Sador's Ben.
Yeah, it's like the redcoats during the American Revolution, marching in a straight line together with their little chant that went, I think, something like "Shoot me, shoot me, shoot me." Like it's just very, yeah, doesn't work so well.
It surprisingly works kind of decently for them because it gets to the point where Sador's men retreat and they bring in the Sonic tank.
That's right. Yeah, good times. And honestly, again, this was a moment where I was like, okay, this is a cool element. Like having a weapon that's sound based. That's like that kind of thing tingles my sci-fi senses. Like that would work. That'd be a cool invention. That'd be a cool thing to explore. Of course, we're absolutely not going to explore it or deconstruct it in any way, but like those little elements of things that make you go, "Oh man, I wish this was in a better movie." Like, yeah.
But yeah, the tank just like kind of swings by and it just sends off I'm using like tabletop game terms. It sends off like a cone of Sonic damage. And
Yeah.
one
Yeah,
guy,
it
his
did,
like
didn't it? Yeah.
eardrum like freaking bursts with blood.
Yeah, yeah, it was, I mean, again, really effective, really a cool idea. Really wish we'd gotten more information about it or it appeared in a better. And I know there's other movies that use sonic weapons and stuff. I feel like this would have been probably one of the first as far as, actual Hollywood movies coming up with interesting sci-fi weapons. Like it was nice to have it be something different from your standard like red lasers, blue lasers, that kind of thing. And it felt like such an afterthought the way they used it, like it was there, but man, like that would have been like these little, like I said, these little tickles of things that are super cool out of context and just really could have been so much better. But nope.
And this is where we get I don't think we said their names, but the little thermal aliens are called Kelvins, which is clever.
Yeah, that is actually pretty clever. I like that.
But they decide to go sacrifice themselves. I guess they
Hmm.
don't talk, so I guess they hate Sador too. But yeah, they
Yeah,
just
we
kind
don't
of
have any motivation for them at all. Like they're just there.
they just run up to the tank and just heat themselves up, and that causes the tank to blow up.
Yeah, and thanks, guys, I guess. Like we hardly knew you. I mean, you literally cooked hot dogs for us and yeah, that's kind of it.
This is where like the music is does a lot of like heavy lifting with the movie because like I was like weirdly affected by their death. I was like, oh no. And
Mm.
then I was like, oh god dang it, James Horner.
Yeah, the music helped a lot, and then I think the music hard carried a lot of the emotional moments in this movie, but also, like, they're little guys, and
Yeah.
anytime you get little guys who don't talk, like, there's gonna be a part of your brain that's a little, like, triggered to be like, "Aw," like, even if they're weird, little guys are always gonna draw a little bit of that out of us.
Um, During like the little ground battle, we do switch back to the the battle beyond the stars. I already made that joke, whatever.
Roll credits.
And this is where Guilt is shot. And
Yes.
he crashes down on the planet. Also, this confused me. I remember this happened to me the first time I watched this movie. One of the Nestor gets captured, and I do not know how.
I thought they did it on purpose so that they would be able to use the arm thing.
Well,
I thought
yeah,
they threw him
they
in
did
there.
do it on purpose, but like did they just throw him out of the ship and then just hope that Sador grabbed him? I don't think they don't.
Yeah,
Oh,
they no, they don't explain the mechanics of how he actually gets on Sador's ship. They do sacrifice him, but yeah, I don't they never spend any time on explaining how that happens. And I guess to be fair, I guess you don't super need to know how he gets there because the whole point is the arm thing, but yeah, again, that just kind of leaves a little hole of, oh, wait a second, now we're jumping to this. Okay, cool. Like,
I do
yeah.
like I do like the plan. They got very lucky that it went down this way, though. Basically, Sador was like, "Yeah, I need a new arm. This one's about to fall off." So he cuts off one of the Nestor's arms and grafts it onto his hand. But because their bodies are all connected to the hive mind, they're trying to get the hand to kill Sador.
It's honestly a great plan. Yeah, like I thought that was really clever. I think it's a cautionary tale for Sador to not just take whatever body part you want and assume you're going to have full control over it when you install it. Like not everything is going to work the way your factory settings work, buddy. But yeah, and obviously that wasn't going to work, but like I really liked it as a little element. Like that part I thought was good storytelling and good use of the Nestor as a plot device basically to have this hive mind creation thing trying to go in and actually do the assassination. Like I thought that was neat.
Yeah. Um, he gets it cut off though, so sadly the
Yeah,
plan
he
doesn't
figures it
work.
out because it's trying to kill him. What a shock.
I do kind of like because we're just showing that like he's like this evil person this whole movie, so just kind of seeing him in like terror for like
Mm.
one scene was like pretty nice.
Yeah, yeah, like, for a brief moment, I think he was confronted with the hubris of his whole, like, "I'm gonna take whatever I want and attach it to my body" thing, and, like, for one moment, it bit him in the ass, and it was like, "Oh, shit." Yeah.
But yeah, as I stated earlier, Guilt has died. He back
Yes.
on the planets, and this is a very nice scene. Shad lives, even though he's dead, he lives up to his deal, and they bury him with food, which I thought was pretty touching. It,
Yeah, it was very Egyptian, but like you said, it was what he came here for, and, again, this character got probably the most development, the most arc out of any character in the movie, including Shad, to be perfectly honest.
yeah,
And, and it was nice to see him get that sort of completion. Like, you kinda knew going in that he probably wasn't going to survive this battle, like, there was a little too much of, "Don't worry, once we're there, you'll be safe, and you can live a happy life the rest of your days." Like, he was never destined for that.
yeah.
But I thought it was nice the send off that they gave him. It was really, it was nice that at least one character got that kinda development. So, yeah.
And of course, he's the first one to go
Yeah. Yeah, well,
because they could
yeah.
probably only afford Robert Vaughn for like 5 days.
And they you know what, though? They made the most of it. Like,
Yeah.
unlike the actress who played Shad's sister, they absolutely made the most of their Robert Vaughn time. So, like, good for them.
And now we begin the second phase of the battle. Now, like even Cowboy's up in space trying to stop him, and this is where we start getting the deaths of the. Well, I guess not, it's not seven, but we get the deaths of the warriors.
Yes.
I believe Nestor goes first. They just kind of their ship just gets shot, and then they just get blown up.
Yeah, I believe so, yeah.
And then the rest of them kind of start sacrificing themselves. Cayman. This is where we find out that Cayman's race was destroyed by Sador, and he charges at him, and they just shoot him. He pulls up.
Yeah. Yeah, it was kind of anticlimactic, but yeah.
there was two parts in this one where we have two very interesting battle cries.
Yeah.
Do you remember how Saint X-Men's goes?
No, no, I don't.
Yeah, she's just like kind of flying and she goes like it's like is she
Um,
screaming in fear or something, or
I,
like, is
um,
that the Valkyrie war cry?
maybe she was passing a kidney stone or something. I don't know, man. That's so random. Maybe they told her just like do something, and she was like, okay, and that's what she came up with.
And then Cayman, he just goes Lazaree and he blows up.
I feel like Cayman, again, like since we didn't really get his motivation till the very end, and at that point it's too late. Like I feel like he was a character. He got like the least really coverage of any of the warriors, and I feel like there was probably a lot more to that character that they just didn't include
Yeah.
because it was interesting and honestly like really well done prosthetics.
Yeah. No,
Like
he's a cool
really,
looking
they're
lizard man.
yeah, and hey, maybe it came down to we don't have the budget to put this on this guy every single day, so we can only use him for a few scenes. But like, yeah, that felt like a character that could have really gone somewhere, and it really felt like his presence was so abbreviated that they possibly had a lot more footage that they didn't use with him because there was a lot there to build on, and they just chose not to.
Yeah. I wonder if this is like a much longer script and then just kind of like when they're like, this is the best budget we can do, we have to start cutting some pages out. Like,
Honestly, probably, yeah. Like, I mean, budget constraints are always going to be a major problem, especially with something like this where you have to make sure you save space for special effects and things like that. So, like, and I was going to say, like, you could tell they had to pick and choose with the costuming. Like, some of the costuming was excellent, and most of it was really not. There was one scene in particular where Shad's wearing a suit with a helmet, and the helmet does not have a seal to the suit. So you're just kind of looking at it like, what's the helmet for, buddy? Like, there's no seal. It's just hanging on your head. Like you're still exposed to the elements. And you kind of look at that and go, somebody just didn't like either didn't have the resources or the interest to make this remotely like that kind of thing, screws the immersion for one thing, but also just kind of goes, why bother with the helmet at that point, except that you wanted a scene with a guy in a helmet. So at the very least, like duct tape that thing to the suit, man. Like make it look like they're connected. But stuff like that, like you could tell where the focus went, where the choices were made, because they definitely had to make some choices with such a small budget, and that was one of the poor choices, I suppose.
and then sadly, would you say Saint X-Men is your favorite character? Where would you rank her on characters for
I'll be honest, I did
series?
not like her as a character because I felt like she was so one note and so like she was sort of designed to be this like tsundere, not like other girls, like, I don't need no man to save me kind of thing, and that trope is very tired to me, so I don't care for it. I could see why in the late '70s, early '80s, it probably still had some legs, but, like, at this point, it's just very like, I am kind of exhausted by, like, I dress sexy and I talk about sex and sex, 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 but also I don't need no man and I can fight for myself, and it's like, "Shut up." Like, I can't really get with that character. Like she's definitely not very and also again, there's the potential there for a lot more development that they just didn't do. And because of that, I can't really engage with her on a level that I think they were hoping that I would as a viewer. And if they'd given her more development, I probably would have engaged a lot better with her.
Yeah. I'm gonna change this question then. Were you happy that she finally died?
Um, honestly, like It okay, so we had the establishment that she's from a culture that really wants to flame out in a blaze of glory and, like, dying in battle is the big thing, and it's very Klingon coded, but hot, And I I knew at that point that that was what was going to happen to her, of course, because that's how foreshadowing works, but also, like, I thought it would have been cooler if they didn't. I thought it would have been a lot cooler if they'd let her live, and she didn't have her big, miraculous, glorious death, but then was able to basically go back to her people and either, keep fighting and, keep being a warrior, keep developing herself, or maybe, God forbid, get a little of that character development and go, hey guys, maybe a big death isn't the only thing that matters. Let's go find some stuff that's actually worth fighting for. There was potential to take that character in a few directions, and I think they chose the easiest path with the hero's death And like I said, obviously, it's coming the minute that conversation happens, but I felt like it was just a little too easy. I felt like it was a little too tidy, a little too neat. Like, all they needed to do was keep her alive and have her maybe be frustrated. Like, "What do you mean I didn't die?" Like, it's almost a Gary Sinise and Forrest Gump kinda thing.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
"I was supposed to die in that battle, why didn't I die?" And it's like, "Well, now you get to have some growth. Now you get to, like, live your life." And she gets to sort of think about that a little bit, but instead, they just went the obvious route and killed her. So, yeah, I don't love that that's what they did with her. I think that 1 or 2 line changes could have made a huge difference in her character there, but, whatever. They did what they had to do, I guess, in the limited time and money they had.
I am personally a sucker for people like sacrificing themselves to like hurt the bad guy.
Mhm.
So I was more on the side of like, no, I like that she like blew herself up and that basically like destroyed like the ship's weapons. I do get what you're saying though. It would have been kind of fun to like have this character just be kind of frustrated with like,
Yeah.
what the heck? Where was my
Well,
glorious stuff? And then like Shad just,
especially with so many other characters dying.
yeah.
Like,
Well, yeah, they all
because
die.
yeah, because with it like, if everybody had lived, that'd be one thing. But with every other character basically going the self-sacrifice route and, dying for the cause, it would have been absolutely hilarious for her to be the last one standing and just to be like, "What? No. Why did they get a glorious death? I want a glorious death." Like, that would have been fun. That would have been a fun, like, twist on the character and a fun because, like, again, if everybody had lived, it's not interesting if she lives too. But everybody's in this movie is making self-sacrifices, even the random, Shad's sister sexual assault thing is a self-sacrifice. Like, there's so many, like, all these people are so noble, and so, like, even the worst characters in a span of, 40 minutes of runtime have suddenly become better people and are willing to die for the cause, and it's like, "Okay, we get it." Like, everybody's self-sacrificing. So, to have her try to be that and fail and be stuck still alive would have been amazing. Like, that would have been a fantastic use of such a one-note belligerent warrior character. Like, what does that character do now that they're still alive? Like, what do you mean I have to go, like, start a farm? I'm not doing that. Like, no. So, yeah, that kind of thing would have been fun for me. But no, I get why they did what they did. And it's everybody has to sacrifice themselves in this, and that's fine. But I think they missed a lot of opportunities with that character that she could have been so much more interesting.
Yeah, to draw comparisons to the thing that this is an adaptation to, not to say like you have to like when you're adapting something like Seven Samurai, Magnificent Seven, but you're still changing things. You don't have to like stick directly to like being exactly
Yeah.
like them. But one of the things I like in those movies is that not all of them die. Just like
Yeah.
generally it's specifically in those movies, four of them die, three of them live. So it's kind of got this bittersweet thing where like most of them die, but you're still some of them are living to fight another day. And
Mhm.
this movie is just kind of like we're gonna kill all of them,
Yeah, we're killing all of them. We don't need any of these people anymore. They're here to serve a purpose, and they served it. So,
which like
yeah.
even if like Space Cowboy died, I found that kind of strange because it's like he kind of had like all this like setup. He had like a love interest, and it's like you'd think like he was one of the more famous actors in this movie, so you think
Yeah.
he would have like survived, but no, he dies too.
Yeah, and I think they're by setting him up with so much more development than most and so much more, backstory and having the love interest especially as being something that I think also foreshadowed his great sacrifice because the sacrifice only matters if he's actually giving something up. And in his case, like they've established, he's got a lot to give up that developed very quickly. He suddenly got basically a wife, and he's going to lose all that to a sacrifice. So I kind of get why they sacrifice the more developed characters. The underdeveloped characters, though, when you sacrifice them, it just feels like like a footnote, like just oh, we got to throw this guy on the fire too. And like we don't really care why, we don't really care what their motivations are, or maybe we get one sentence like we do with Cayman, but it's like at the end of the day, they've all got to go. So chuck them on the flames, like let's go. And yeah, if they had been sort of surgical with it and only given the sacrificial noble death to the characters who actually had something to die for, then, that would have probably been a lot more emotionally stimulating than just, a laundry list of who bid it in this battle.
Yeah, it was a weird choice, and I really wonder kind of like did they just think like, oh, it'd be more tragic if they all die? And it's like, not
Yeah,
really.
probably that, but also, like, you can't, like, have the people of Akir go back to their perfectly wonderful normal lives if you have any of these people still lingering around. So, to get back to reset to the original state of the movie, which is kind of unfortunate because I feel like you shouldn't like as the story unfolds, as the journey goes, you should get to a point where you're not right back where you started. You should get to a point where you've evolved a little bit and there's been some growth and some development and some learning and stuff like that. So getting back to the point where you started is sort of just it's a cul-de-sac of a story. You've looped around and now you're back where you started, and that's not that interesting. But clearly that's what they were going for. Except now
Yeah.
Shad's got a girlfriend. So, that's kind of it. So in order to preserve that finality, you've just got to kill everybody else that was introduced for basically one purpose, and that purpose was fight and die. And now they're gone and it's very tidy and cleaned up and you don't have to worry about any loose ends. And it's like, okay, I guess, but like those loose ends were some of the funner parts that could have been interesting.
After most of Sador's men are destroyed and his weapons are pretty much taken down, he uses a tractor beam to bring on the ship. And Nell has this great idea of just actually no, Shad has this idea. I can't remember. Is Shad the one that's like, hey, you should just blow yourself up?
No, it's Nell. It was Nell's idea.
Okay.
I think. I'm 90% because she gets like ship dementia from the
Yeah.
damage. And
W-
which I kind of like because she's clearly voiced by an older actress
Yeah.
who sounds like she may have smoked a few packs a day most of her life. And when she gets her ship dementia from the damage, it's like a person in real life with dementia where they've lost a lot of their more recent memories, but they have memories further back. So she starts talking to Shad like he's her previous boss, and she's like, and he tries to correct her and it's not working. So he just rolls with it and is like, yep, that's me. And it's like very, very coded, which is interesting because, dementia is such a thing now with the boomer population and becoming more and more of a problem. But in the late 70s, early 80s, I don't know how common it was. But I found it really interesting that, like, when they decided to frame her as having these memory issues, it was very coded. Like, she's forgotten everything recent, but she still remembers back in the day,
mhm.
which, like, my grandmother had Alzheimer's and she would have a hard time making recent memories. But if you sat her down with like a photo album of her childhood, she remembered all that. Like she could tell you everything about everybody in those pictures. So that's kind of how it felt to me watching that. And I am 90% sure it was her idea to sacrifice herself there at the end.
There was like a moment where I couldn't remember whether whose idea it was, and I was kind of like, did Shad just be like, yeah, no, just blow yourself up? But like,
Well, okay, hold on. I've pulled up the Wikipedia and it says crippled and unable to fight, Nell is captured by Hammerhead's tractor beam. Nanelia and Shad activate Nell's self-destruct program, then flee in an escape pod. So, but I remember Nell saying, "Get in the escape pod." They're like, "What escape pod?" Like they
yeah,
didn't know there was one. So I feel like this was Nell's idea, but this summary doesn't say that. I still think it was. I'm going to my grave with that. It was Nell's idea. She sacrificed because we have a theme: sacrifice yourself for the cause. That's what this movie is about. So,
then we have a funny gag where she keeps messing up the counting,
okay,
and
I
then
liked that. Yeah.
Chad is just like, just start from 10, no. And it would have been really funny if she was just like 10, 1.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess I couldn't have done that, but that would have been pretty yeah. Her forgetting how numbers work it's one of those moments where you have a second of, "Oh shit, she's not gonna blow up because she'll never get to 1 at this rate." Like, she's all over the place. But, yeah, no, it worked out in the end. It was just kind of played for laughs, which, yeah, I didn't hate that. That was pretty good.
Sador makes the ultimate mistake of pissing off the sassy spaceship and
Yep.
asks her for a surrender, and she's like, "Screw you, dude! I'm not surrendering." You, and then blows up. Luckily, they're
Yes.
able to get out. The heroes are able to get out of the ship before then. And then we get this really somber moment where Sador finally accepts defeat, and he's just like, "I wanted to live forever," and then he blows up.
Yeah, I was kind of on the fence about that moment because, like, on the one hand, I see what they're trying to do. They're trying to give that little bit of self-recognition to the villain, but they'd spent the whole movie establishing that this guy gives zero fucks about anybody but himself, and you have to assume that that's because he thinks he matters that much. Like, the only reason you have that level of narcissism, other than, a clinically diagnosed case of narcissism, is that you genuinely think that you are that valuable and that you deserve to live forever and you deserve to have all that. And so to have him end on some kind of a plaintive note, I thought was a little off character for him, because I feel like out of all the characters, he was the one that probably should have stayed solid all the way through with his absolute confidence that he was worth it, that he was the valuable one, that he was the powerful one, that he deserved to have all the body parts he needed to live forever, and that how dare anybody get in the way of that, because he's him. Like, he deserves this, and if he's powerful and he can take what he wants. So I thought that, I mean, I would have probably been a little more satisfied if he'd been raging about it, like how unfair this is and how it wasn't supposed to go down this way and how, like, he should have what he wants. And so I guess they were sort of playing it for confusion, like, but why didn't I get what I want? But that ends up creating this slight, like, sort of, I don't know, like a very dog-leg shaped direction for his character, where it's like, wait, now he's getting awareness? Like, what are we gonna do with that? It's too late, he's dead. Like, I mean, yeah, out of all the characters, I think he should have been the most consistent all the way through, because the only way to pull off the shit he was doing was to have that sort of ultimate, like, absolutely blind to reality, like, I think I'm Napoleon and Jesus rolled into one, like, convinced that he deserves to be the god of all things. So, yeah, like, I don't know. It was fine. They clearly made a choice, but I think it would have been better to keep him very ragey and angry.
Personally for me, I just like the campiness of just you have this guy, like you said, being narcissistic and egotistical this whole time, and then just at his last moment, he's basically crying.
Yeah, it is very campy. It's very like, but, it's like, okay, yeah, but dude, like, you were cutting people's body parts off and sewing them onto yourself. Like, and you didn't care who, like, you were trying to harvest a whole country, a whole planet of readily available body parts. You were trying to go, full clonus. So, yeah, I don't know.
And then our two lovers, I guess, we're
Yeah.
hanging out in the pod. This is more where we get like a good, like, nice final message for the movie where Shade explains that the Varda, in Varda culture, nobody is truly dead. Um, when those are loved and celebrated by the living. So just kind of just having a little heartwarming message to know that, like, don't worry, guys, all these people that you've come to love over these 90 minutes, they will be forever remembered by these people.
They're gonna be
Um,
force ghosts watching the party from afar. Yes.
and then you're like, okay, cool. Are we gonna see a celebration of the Akira? Nope, movie's over.
Nope, movie's over. Hard cut. Like, movie just ends.
I
And
love the 70s and 80s. It's generally in action movies where just the villain's dead, movie's over.
yeah. Yeah, like, we don't need any denouement here. The
Yeah.
climax happened and that's it.
Like,
Like,
I've always wanted to make like an action romance movie where, like, the romance isn't completed, like, the second act breakup has happened and, like, you're waiting for the third act to happen, but then the villain dies and the movie ends before there's any resolution to the romance. And they're just like, "Wait,
yeah.
wait, did they get back to—" I've always wanted to do that, just so the audience that watches they pay to watch this movie, and they're just like, "Wait, so they get back together? What happened?"
Yeah, I feel like that would infuriate people, but it would be fun to watch them be infuriated, so yeah.
It'd be fun to read the reviews of the movie and then point that out. I don't know why I wanna purposely make my audience annoyed, but it's funny to me.
Well, and, like, for me, because I do a lot of storytelling, I spend a lot of time sort of walking that line of, like, understanding that a good story, especially in the context, does not necessarily need to have romance and does not necessarily need to have, the development of a couple, a breeding pair basically going forward from the conflict to live happily ever after. But I also recognize that for the escapism aspect of a lot of movies, that people want to go into a space where there's a happy couple that they can insert themselves in and have that escape from their normal lives for 90 minutes or 3 hours, depending on which movie you're watching. So it's awkward because like there are times where I feel like a relationship is unnecessary. It's very unnecessary to the storytelling most of the time. But I get why it's there for the escapism aspect and for the movie making aspect and trying to, lure in audiences and stuff. But it sort of creates this like this conflict in my brain of like trying not to lose my immersion. Like I said earlier with the Maslow's hierarchy of need. Like if you're in a life or death situation, you are literally trying to survive. The chances that you're having a conversation about kissing and sex are pretty low, but also like not zero. So like for the purposes of getting people interested and being like, oh, there's going to be kissing, there's going to be sex, like this is nice. Like I get it. It's hard for me when I like write scripts. Like I can't speed run relationships and I can't jump. Like I can't spend 8 minutes going from I hate you, you're my enemy to let's make out, because to me that's not a natural progression. Like you can't do that arc in 8 minutes. And I realize that sort of shoots me in the foot with storytelling because when it comes to that format, people are less inclined to look for, what's more realistic and more inclined to look for, look, I just want to feel like somebody likes me for 8 minutes. So it's like you have to sort of know your audience and also have to understand that like there is some disbelief suspended, not just with things like special effects and spaceships, but also with things like relationship development and where that falls in the story, because that's what people are here for.
How long did it take for the listener and the vampire to get together in the Vampire Roommate series?
Oh
Like
my
an
god,
episode?
so long. Well, so they started dating in the first episode, the very end of the first episode, so like 20 minutes. But then, yeah, they don't end up getting engaged for, I don't know, 15 or 20 episodes, and then they don't get married for a few more. And now it's like the focus is not. And again, I'm not a big fan of damsels in distress. I'm not a big fan of those kind of tropes. I don't want anybody in my stories to be stupid. I want them all to be equal partners and, fighting together, them against the world. I never want my conflict to be between those two characters. I want the conflict to always be external. Or if it's internal, it's in one of their heads and the other one's helping with it. I don't ever want them to be like bashing against each other. I want them to be together against the problem, which I think is a healthier way to do it. But yeah, I have to slow burn that stuff. And even with my like friends to lovers stories, they don't end with, let's get married. They end with, okay, let's go out for coffee and see how it goes. Like it's a very like, let's try to keep this in the realm of like what could actually happen, as opposed to like, oh my God, I love you forever. And I even try to avoid using words like forever and always, because, everybody that's been in a real relationship knows how that shit can bite you in the ass. So it's
Yeah.
like, but again, I also recognize that in an escapism situation, in a situation where people are just trying to not feel real for a little while, too much reality can be a bad thing. So it is like I do recognize from a storytelling perspective the value of having a speed run relationship. It's just difficult to write if you're trying to be a good storyteller, I guess.
And I get that. Slow burn is always nice, but sometimes you don't have the time for slow burn.
Yeah,
Like this
exactly.
movie, that's 90 minutes long.
This is not a slow burn movie. No, this
Yeah.
movie is the absolute speed run of space battles.
So that was Battle Beyond the Stars. What did you think of the movie?
Um, okay. So I guess obviously there was definitely trying to tap into that Star Wars cultural influence. Like everybody saw what Star Wars did. Nobody expected Star Wars to do what it did. So suddenly there's all the sci-fi stuff, which we talked about before. I think there were a lot you could spot a lot of elements where there was a Star Wars influence, like the opening, the slow ship reveal, stuff like that. Like a lot of the first 10 minutes were very Star Wars inspired. And even the title, Battle Beyond the Stars, like you almost wonder if they're hoping that there's going to be a translation error and other countries are going to accidentally watch this instead of Star Wars, that kind of thing. But I thought it was okay. It's just because they were trying to sort of tap into that Star Wars vein, but they were coming at it with so little money and so little resources. It ended up falling for me pretty flat because they just didn't have what they needed to reach that level. So like I personally didn't like the Shad actor. I thought he was very wooden. I didn't think he could emote his way out of a paper bag.
He's good in that
Um,
Tale from the Crypt episode, I swear.
I believe you. I believe you. But like, just my experience with him is just this, and I was like, oh man, like I can't. And I was like, sort of as I'm watching him, I'm thinking of Mark Hamill, again, sort of standing on the sands of Tatooine, looking at the suns and being like, my whole family's dead, and the emotion that crossed that guy's face as a young, very untried actor was so much more moving to me than pretty much anything this kid did in this movie. So I was like, and this felt, again, budgetary reasons, but the costuming was very distracting. Like I said, the sets felt very soundstagey. They didn't, go out on location anywhere interesting, really. It felt very campy and very narrow. And for what it is, that's great. But to me, it's a little bit of a shame that if you're taking a source material like the Magnificent Seven and you're trying to set it in space, like there's so much potential there that if you don't have the resources and you don't have the budget and you don't have, you don't want the runtime to go over an hour and a half, you're doing it a disservice. Like I feel like if they had more resources, had more money and let it go longer, they could have done so much with this. And so as I watch it, it's like I can see things about it that are great. I can see things about it that have serious potential. And the whole time I'm just sort of like, this could have been such a better movie. Like if they just made better choices or had more money, like for something like Magnificent Seven, the bar is so high, like you're going into it with something that goes back to Kurosawa. It's culturally significant all the way through across multiple cultures. If you're taking on that mantle and you're making a movie set in space from that theme, you better do it justice. And I just feel like they fell short of that. And for me, that was like, it was an entertaining movie to watch, but it was a disappointment from that perspective because I wanted it to be better. As I'm watching it, I was like, I really want this to be better. I want these people to have more story. I want these people to act better. I want better chemistry. I want better sets, like better costumes. Everything about this could and you get those little tastes of like the good actors really shining or the clever sci-fi weapons or the thermal aliens or whatever and you go, "Oh, that's actually really cool. Tell me more." And they just don't and you're like, "Ah, this could have been so great." So for what it is, yeah, it's campy, dopey fun, and I don't hate it. Like I enjoyed the watch, but the whole time I was like, "Man, this could have been great." Like this really could have if somebody else with more money had tackled this, this could have been fantastic. And I almost kind of wish they would. Like I almost kind of wish they would revisit it because with all the remakes and prequels and shit that we've got going on now, I think one of the things that bugs me so much is when studios remake things that were already good.
Yeah.
Like, you don't need to remake things that are good. You need to remake things that deserve a remake, that were, like, bad the first time or just underdeveloped the first time and deserve a second chance. And I think this movie is, like, quintessential example of a movie that could benefit so much from a higher budget, more depth remake. Like, I think it could be absolutely fantastic. I hope somebody does. But, yeah, as it stands, it's fine. Framed within, the Corman universe and the limited budget, it's fine. It's just it was never going to be Star Wars, and it probably shouldn't have tried so hard to be Star Wars because it just ends up illustrating so clearly where it falls short.
Funny is there was kind of not necessarily a remake, but someone recently did a sci-fi Magnificent Seven movie. It was called Rebel Moon. Um,
Oh.
I I watched it's in parts. I watched the first part and I thought it was really bad, and I did not watch part two. I didn't
Okay, well,
even
forget
I
that one
didn't
then.
even yeah, I didn't even get to the whole "Let's defend the village" part because I couldn't be asked to watch it.
Oof. Yeah, that's bad. No. Just don't do that.
It's directed by Zack Snyder. I don't know your thoughts
Oh
or
god.
familiarity with him,
Really?
but, they seemed Netflix seemed to be using that to create their own, like to recreate the success of the Snyder Cut for the Justice League movie, and
Yep.
so well, they're like, "Oh, we're forcing him to make this PG-13 cut of the movie, but we're gonna give him a chance. Later on, he's gonna release the rated R cut of the movie." And
Mhm.
it's like, so I need to watch this movie twice? I'm not fucking
No.
I watched the first part, it was like, "This is boring, I don't care about any of these characters," and then I didn't watch part 2, so, sadly, someone did have a chance to make it, and then that seemed to fail
That's
even
too
more.
bad. Yeah.
Um,
I Honestly, if they're gonna remake this movie, they need somebody who genuinely likes the source material, both Magnificent Seven and Battle Beyond the Stars, and can look at it sort of the way we're looking at it and go, okay, here are the things that work, here are the things that don't, and could use improving. Be very critical about that and build up what's already there into something stronger and do it from a place of love, not a place of how can I best make money off this or how can I best sort of lampoon the source material because it's silly and campy and let's make fun of it. You know, don't do that. Just like come at it with taking the pieces that are strong and strengthening the pieces that aren't and making something of value. And like that's what we need. And I don't know if that will ever happen, but yeah, this movie was fine, but it was, like I said, it was a disappointment at the end of the day because I just really wanted it to be better than the sum of its parts, and it never got there.
Yeah. I do agree that like it would be nice to see someone kind of like, Magnificent Seven in space. It'd be nice to see someone take that and like, make a good version of it with like high budget and everything.
Yeah.
Um, that being said though, I really do enjoy this movie. And I think it's
Yeah.
just because I like movies like this. I just like the fun, cheap and campy like sci-fi
Mhm.
movies. Um, so I do agree with a lot of what you're saying. The characters are very undercooked. There's just like not enough time for what's happening on screen, and the budget limits it in some spots. That being said, like I do enjoy this movie quite a bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I
I
enjoyed the
actually,
watch.
yeah, I just did my score in Letterboxd right now. I gave it a 7 out of 10.
Oh, nice.
Probably should be lower, but it just my enjoyment of it kind of keeps it a little bit higher. Um,
Well, and that's what matters. Like, you don't
yeah.
have to necessarily look at it with a critical eye. If you just enjoy the camp, you enjoy the camp, and that's totally fine. Like, everybody's got their cheese, their dumb cheese, their guilty pleasures, and I think, I mean, like I said, I enjoyed the watch. I did. It was just like a struggle only because I could see how much better it could be, I suppose. But like for what it was, for the money they had, they did the best they could, and I think the results are probably better than they had any right to be.
I'm just glad you didn't hate it because that would really suck if I was like, "Hey, let's do this movie." And you're like, "Steven, what the fuck did you pick? This is awful."
No, 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 I didn't hate it at all. It was cute and just like full of directions that it could go in that kind of make my storytelling brain go, "Oh, but what if they did this?" So that kind of thing. But no, it was super cute and definitely like an example of the sort of fun, campy filmmaking that was happening at the time that kind of defines the culture of the late 70s, early 80s, and is definitely worth keeping in the hopper for like, watching with friends and stuff like that. Yeah, definitely.
My main co-host, he's a writer too, so like he generally like thinks about that a lot too. Where it's just
Mm.
like, "Oh, the writer brain in me, it's not letting me, it's not letting me think fast."
Yeah, it happens.
um, yes, thank you so much for coming on and talking about this movie with me.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It was a blast, and you introduced me to something that I've never watched before, so that's always fun.
If that's one thing that I can do with this podcast, I just want to introduce people to all different types of movies. Especially like the ones in the lower end that generally you're not normally gonna find because this is something you'd find on Tubi.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So where can we find you? On the internet,
Uh,
not in real life.
yeah, please don't come to my house. Yeah, no, I have a YouTube channel called Ree's Audio Adventures where I write and record and edit and upload 2 stories a week from audio roleplay perspectives, all kinds of things, fantasy and sci-fi and stuff like that. If you like that sort of thing, I like telling stories. And I also have a channel called Urban Nymph Plays, where I put game content on. I stream on Twitch and things like that, play a lot of games. So I'm under Urban Nymph on all the channels if you go look for that. And finally, I have a YouTube channel called Ree's Rambles, which is relatively new. I was making movie essays and putting them on my audio channel, but realized those two just don't really go together. So I started a third channel, and that's where the movie content's going to go. And I'm actually working on a project right now, almost done with the script. So probably in another month or two, there will be some fresh content on there. So yeah,
Nice. I'm gonna be excited to check that out.
thank you. I like doing it. It's a lot of fun.
This was the Balance of Cinema podcast. I'm really bad at closing these things, so just wave and say bye. Bye everybody.
Bye. Bye.